tell us where you were at the time and what attempts you were making to try and just pull your dad out of that flat.
Yeah, I was there at the time. I was alerted to the fire about 2 a.m. I live on the other side of London. However, friends, family were trying to contact me through the night. Eventually woken up by my mum, who was working at the time, so thankfully she wasn't in the flat. But I made my way immediately to the scene. We were actually on the phone to him during that time.
We could see him on the phone.
Yeah, it was surprisingly calm. I mean, we woke him up. He was asleep, as you would be at that time of the evening.
So did you wake him up at 2 o'clock in the morning?
Yes. We woke him up, said there was a fire. He could smell the smoke. We told him to try and get out. He couldn't because he said the door was too hot. But
what was going through your mind? I mean, these pictures, these images, you know, media organisations were criticised a bit for running them. At the same time, they might have helped save his life by focusing on exactly where he was.
Yeah, for me, that was a lot later on. Well, it seemed like it anyway. At that point, before the images were shown, we'd kind of given up. On the phone, he'd already said his goodbyes. He said the fire was here. These were his last words. I was on the phone to him. My wife was on the phone as well. My brother. We were all obviously distraught, panicking, and then the phone lines cut out. And then that's the point where you kind of lose hope. And I started searching the shelters around just in case. It might have been an hour and a half later that all of a sudden my phone went crazy again. It was everyone getting in touch who were at home watching the images, saying, "Is this him? This is him. This is him."
And did you see the images and think that's my dad?
I wasn't
sure.
Wasn't sure.
God,
but everyone else seemed sure because I wasn't anywhere near a telly. But what I did, I took the images on my phone to one of the policemen nearby. I said, "Look, this is my dad." They got on the radio to the fire brigade. They took details, his name, the flat number, the floor. My wife was doing exactly the same thing with the fire brigade on the phone from where she was. And yeah, we just had to wait and see.
When did you hear that it was him?
We actually weren't 100% sure until much, much later when we saw him at the hospital.
So it wasn't until he was rescued and in hospital that you knew that was your dad and he was going to be all right?
That was the point where we were relieved to see him.
I mean, we were living this in real time. We didn't know your father. We just suddenly saw this guy, obviously, at a window, and everybody was living this in real time, this extraordinary drama. And we all, I think, left the show that day fearing the absolute worst. I had to fly to America, and the whole flight kept thinking about it and just how awful it was. And I landed to about 1 million tweets from people saying, he's alive. And I was so thrilled. I don't even know your dad. God knows how you must have felt as a family. When you were reunited with him, what was that moment like for you?
Oh, it was such a relief. It was myself and Mum. We were waiting in the hospital for confirmation that it was actually him. But yes, to see him out of there, he was in a bad way. At that point, he was already in his coma. They'd induced the coma because of the smoke inhalation, just to protect his lungs. But
how is he now?
He's better. He was taken off the ventilator on Saturday. He's awake.
Have you talked to him?
Yes, we've spoken to him. He's still quite incoherent. He's very traumatised. There are points where he doesn't know where he is. I'm not sure if he realises yet the full extent, because he's blind, you see. So as far as he's aware, it might have been just a couple of floors.
So he doesn't realise yet the full story of what happened at Grenfell Tower?
We've told him, but like I say, he's still very traumatised, very confused.
Has he been offered a house somewhere? I mean, what's the rehousing offer for your parents? Because we're hearing that it isn't satisfactory for many people.
Well, as far as permanent accommodation is concerned, we haven't been told anything yet. We have spoken to the council, various departments around housing, and the social workers have spoken to us to assess his needs. But as far as permanent housing is concerned, that hasn't happened yet. We haven't had much news. My mum and my brother, they're in temporary accommodation right now, just near the hospital, so that they can.
What do you feel as a family about what happened?
Well, that was our family home. We all grew up there. My father lived there for 36 years. We all moved in 1981. That tower was centre to the community.
And were you aware of concerns about fire safety when that new cladding went up in particular? Was anyone talking about this?
Well, we were always concerned about fire safety, even back in the day. And there have been other fires in Grenfell Tower in the past, which have been isolated to the flat they were in.
Well, that apparently was what happened here. The fire brigade left the flat where the original fire started, believing they'd put it out and that was the end of the problem. But as they came out, I was reading today, they saw the whole tower just going up.
Yeah, that's the surprising thing for me, because over the years there have been other fires. And yes, it's just that particular flat that was affected. For it to spread this way is unbelievable.